going to be back?
Yeah, like I said, I've been in constant communication with ownership. Heard this morning. Thankful for the opportunity. Got a lot of work to do. Obviously, 3-14, not good enough.
You said you heard this morning, and that was through John.
Yeah.
Through John, yeah.
Yep.
We spoke with John. He talked about the defense not being good enough. Have you made any staff changes?
Yeah, I haven't made any staff changes. I'll just say everything wasn't good enough. So, when you only win 3 games, there's a lot of things that need to be improved. And again, it's only the day after the last game, so we'll get started on that process.
Are you considering staff changes? Are you considering it?
Look, we just got done. We just got done with meeting with the players. I'll sit down with all the coaches, and we'll make the best decisions we can for the football team.
So you're not
You
moving out.
say that, but by this point last year, you had already moved on from Thomas McGahee and Bobby Johnson. So it's not crazy that you would have already thought about making staff changes.
Yeah, haven't thought about it in terms of I got a lot of confidence in the guys that have put the time and effort and energy in. The results were terrible, but we're moving forward here and do everything we can do to improve it.
John also said you guys had a long meeting on Friday and you laid out your plan. So within that plan, there was nothing about making any staff changes?
Yeah, what I talk about with John is private. So we had a long conversation about a lot of different things.
Within that plan, he expressed he wasn't happy with the defense. So that would seem to put Shane Bowen in the crosshairs. Just the owner saying he's not happy with the defense.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it as that. I mean, look, you're not happy with anything when you win 3 games, Dan.
You also mentioned he said to you, have you thought about not calling plays next year?
Yeah, I brought that up. To him in a meeting. Again, there's no decision that's been made. We'll sit back and take a look at everything and do what we need to do.
When we talked to you at the owners meeting, you were pretty adamant about wanting play calling back. Talking about the number of head coaches were offensive minded, they're still calling plays. So to give it up after 1 year after taking it back, I mean, why is that something you're?
Well, I'm not saying I'm giving it up or not giving it up.
Why is it something you're considering?
Look, we won 3 games, so I'm going to consider every option to try to be better.
Brian, what is your vision for the team going forward? Because John talked about the fact that he remains confident in both your vision and Joe's vision.
I'd just say we got a lot of work to do, and that's what we'll do.
How much of your future here do you think is tied to who the quarterback is going to be in September?
Yeah, I'm focused on today here. We just found out we're going to be able to stay, so got a lot of work to do, and that's what we're going to do.
Why did you do exit meetings this year but not last year?
I thought it was the right thing to do. Did it the first year too.
Why wasn't it the right thing last year?
Because we thought something else would be a little bit better. So didn't like the way we did it last year, so we changed it to this year. Just like you change from year to year with schedules and practice routines and meetings with whatever it may be. So we figured we'd do it this year. We did it after the first year. We did it in groups, select groups, like free agents versus rookies versus second-year players. So that was the decision we made.
Right. Knowing that you were found out today that you're coming back for next year, but there's obviously no commitment beyond that year. Does that make you more willing or more likely to pursue a veteran quarterback than a rookie quarterback who you will have to obviously develop?
Yeah, I'd say we'll pursue anything we think can make us better. NFL is usually a 1-year deal anyway, so we'll do everything we can do to be much better than we were this year.
After your discussions with John and just going into next season, do you feel like you need to make the playoffs in 2025?
No, again, the conversations we have are private. I would just say, obviously, 3 wins isn't good enough.
What kind of honor and privilege is it to coach this franchise in your mind?
Yeah, it's a great honor. Need to do a better job.
Personally, then absent Sean. Personally, do you feel like you need to make the playoffs next year?
I just think we got to do a better job of continuing improving where we're at. That's what we need to do. So, long road ahead. A lot of things to improve on, and it starts with me.
You guys blocked Kafka from interviewing for an OC job last offseason. Will you do the same this year, or has anything changed there?
Yeah, again, we just got done player meetings. I'll sit down with all the coaches, discuss a bunch of things with them, but got a lot of respect for Mike.
Why isn't Joe out here with you?
He's coming here after me to talk.
Are you doing those sit-downs with coaches today?
Over the next few days. Yeah, over the next few days.
You guys made some significant changes, whether it's special teams, other coaching staff, defensive coordinator. Would it be challenging to redo it again?
Yeah, like I said, I got a lot of confidence in the guys. We'll sit down, we'll talk about a lot of different things, and we'll make the decisions we think we need to make.
What do you look at it when you say, we have to fix here? Like, why did this season go wrong? What sticks out to you in that regard?
Yeah, that's there's a lot of things. Obviously, didn't play well enough, didn't coach well enough.
Brian,
One of
you
the things players brought up to me was that they thought at times there was a lack of accountability in regards to young players. I'm wondering what you think when you hear that.
Yeah, I'd say, look, everything's got to be better when you win 3 games.
You met with John on Friday, correct?
I did,
And you said,
amongst other days.
right,
Yeah.
well, but I mean, that was, he mentioned that was a long meeting.
Yeah, we had a long meeting.
And that was a, different than other meetings, right? That was a meeting to talk about the future and your job and things like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of discussions about a lot of different
He
things.
told you today that you're coming back.
He did.
Right. So between Friday and today, was anything in your mind thinking that your job might be in jeopardy, or is there anything from that Friday that kind of convinced you that you were going to come back?
Yeah, Paul, I try to focus on the things I can control, so that's
You're
what I
also a
focus
human
on.
being who values a job, I would think.
What's
So
that?
You're also a human being who values
Sure.
your job.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you, between Friday and Monday, was there anything in your head that said, I might not, just thinking about your job security?
Yeah, I just focus on what I need to do for each day.
Is that easy to compartmentalize for you, or do you find that as a challenge that through the years you've had to do that?
I think the older you get in this profession and the more things you go through, I think it's easier to focus on the things you can control.
What makes up, Brian, the qualities of a winning quarterback?
I'd say there's a lot of things. I'm not going to get into all the particulars. They got to be a good football player, got to be accurate, good decision maker, good in critical situations, good in 2-minute, good in the red zone, leadership. There's a lot of different things.
It's a difficult chore to find one like that.
Yeah.
Brian, do you believe that you've had the players that you needed to win more games than maybe you guys have the last 2 years?
Yeah, I just say, look, we didn't do a good enough job. I didn't do a good enough job, and we're going to do everything we can do to get it better.
We asked you last week, what you learned about yourself as a coach, and now the end of the season's here, and you had that time to sit down and talk with John. What have you learned about yourself as a coach over this year?
Well, again, it's the season. The season's not 24 hours over. So again, we got a lot of work to do, and that's what we plan on doing.
Did you guys go all out to win that game yesterday?
Yeah. I mean, we fake punt, and I mean,
I don't know, just talking to some players, they said it
jumped
almost felt like a
off
preseason
sides
game with some of the lineup decisions and stuff like that.
well, we were looking at other guys too to see how they played and give them some opportunities that have competed here, and a lot of them did a nice job. Unfortunately, we made a couple key penalties there at the end that shouldn't have made.
Why did you kick the field goal late in the fourth there rather than going for it? You've been going for it earlier.
Because I thought that was the right thing to do.
Is there anything you
When-
can put your finger on with that? You bring up the key penalties at the end. The first year, your first season, those little details, you guys seem to, those were what were winning you games. The last 2 years, those seem to be kind of what's costing you these close games. Do you have anything you could put your finger on in that regard?
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of things that are costing us, and I got to do a better job with it.
When will you start your draft quarterback tape watching, evaluations, etc.?
Yeah, soon.
I mean, this week?
Yeah, soon.
Brian, do you think you're set up to succeed here? Are the components in place? Are the pieces in place that you've got every opportunity to win?
Yeah, and look, we're going to have to do a good job this offseason and improving on a lot of areas.
Along with possibly giving up play calling, what other changes are you considering making in your role or how you operate?
Yeah, we'll start that here, and we'll go through the process here over the months here leading up to when we get to May.
What did you bring up, though, in your meeting with John?
Yeah, I'll keep all that private.
Brian, the record as such is one that gets guys fired, obviously, the record. Do you think that the way the team went through the season, not a lot of controversies, seemed to play hard, seemed to not, get off track, do you think that helped in a season that you lost 3 games to convince ownership that
Won 3 games.
won 3 games?
Yeah.
Did I say lose 3 games?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Wish it was reversed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be having this discussion right now then. But I'm saying the way the team kind of
Yeah.
got guided through everything, that helped your case with
Well, I knew you guys talked to John. So look, again, I make no excuses. Not good enough. I think the guys battled, stuck together, but obviously a lot of improvements we need to make.
John said that he questioned you about, whether you were going to call plays or not next year. You said that you were the one that brought it up. Which
Yeah, I'd say we probably, I don't know, maybe he asked a question. I mean, it was a good conversation. It was a long conversation.
Couple more.
That Pete, is that how much of an internal battle is that for you to decide whether to give it up? 'Cause I know you take a lot of pride in doing it.
It's not. I mean, look, we got to do stuff different when you only win 3 games. So a lot of things to look at, and not prepared to say what I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do 24 hours after the game.
And in consideration with giving up play calling, is it the possibility of changing the offensive scheme to? You had a new play caller, theoretically, he'd have his own ideas, his own scheme.
Yeah, I think, Connor, we'll do whatever we think we need to do.
I asked this last week, and you said there'd be time after the season, so I'll ask it again. Any regrets on how you guys handled Daniel Jones and letting him go when you let him go?
Yeah, again, we're kind of moving on here to 25.
Upgrading the roster the best we can, looking at the organization top to bottom, trying to figure out what's best moving forward, throughout the entire football operation. So with that being said, I'll open up for questions.
Joe, who does this fall on in your mind in terms of the performance this season?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, myself. I mean, we're not good enough. We didn't play well enough. I've got to do a better job assembling a roster, with more talent, so we can go out and compete at a higher level. So I look inward, first and foremost.
I know you thought otherwise when we spoke to you last time about whether you're going to come back. You were pretty certain you would be back. And did that ever waver? And what did you think when you did hear the news ultimately today?
No, that
I
never.
don't know if you got, like Brian said, he spoke to John specifically and he was told he was coming back today.
Yeah, no, it never wavered. Never wavered from last time we were here from my feelings there.
Joe, how much of your future success is obviously tied to bringing in a quarterback here this offseason?
Yeah, it's the most important position in football. And, you look at the roster right now, Tommy's the only quarterback on the roster. So that's definitely, important to any team in the NFL's success. So that's something we'll definitely be looking at.
Where are you going to be looking at? What skills, what kind of characteristics do you?
Yeah, I don't want to get into specifics on that, but we've done a lot of work on, the college guys. John mentioned earlier that, we'll look at free agency. We can also look throughout the draft, potential trade opportunities. So, we'll look at any avenue we can, to upgrade the position. And, we've talked before, in these situations, it's, the film is one part of the equation. And then, from a draft standpoint, you really got to get around these kids. And I think it's important, part of our process that we try to get around these kids every year. So when, they are free agents or a trade opportunity presents itself, you've spent an ample amount of time with these guys on who they are as people and their ability to learn and process information. So,
Do you have any regrets about not adding a quarterback from the draft last year?
No, I'm happy with Malik, where he was, and, the draft class in general. I think I know those guys played well. They did. They played really well. I think 5 out of 6 of those guys played over 50% of the snaps, and Darius there towards the end was up around 40%, in terms of play time total. So, I'm happy with the core foundation that we were able to acquire through last year's draft, and I think those guys will be key pieces moving forward.
Joe, on a week-to-week basis late in the season, were you aware of where your draft status was?
Yes. Yes.
So 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. So,
Yeah.
so when you got to 1, it's not getting to 1, you're losing to get to 1, obviously. Was there any thought in the last couple of games that, we're at 1 here, we need to try to win, but 1 looks pretty good if we need a quarterback?
Yeah, you're always going to go out and try to win. I know John addressed that earlier. As long as, the New York Giants and, the Mayer and Tisch family are on board, like, we're going to go out and try to win the games. And, that's just, that's what we believe in.
Joe, there's the thought that when a regime is entering like a must-win kind of year where you just were told you're coming back, that a GM and a coach will act out of self-preservation. Like, I got to spend a lot of money, have the best possible team, trade future draft picks to get the. How will you balance that versus that might not be the long-term interest of the Giants of spending spree in free agency and trading future draft capital?
Yeah, I understand the question. I've got a tremendous amount of respect for the Mayer family and the Tisch family, and I would never do that. I understand we're gonna build this thing the right way, and I'm not gonna do a Hail Mary for self-preservation or anything like that. We have a plan in place that we believe in, and we're gonna stick with that. And again, I've got a tremendous amount of respect for ownership and what they believe in, and we have really good communication with them. and they understand our, where we are and where we're trying to go, and there will be no Hail Marys.
You heard it all day that you won't get enough time to fully realize that plan?
No.
One year turnaround kind of?
Listen, we're here. We're picking third in the draft. As we built this thing, when Daniel had the ACL a year ago, not knowing how he was going to come back, we also had to be conscious of what may be on the horizon. So, you're kind of working on parallel tracks. So we're sitting here with $40+ million in cap space and over 100 the following year. So some teams are in this situation where maybe they need a quarterback and, they don't have the financial pieces or the draft resources. So we're in good shape from that standpoint in terms of improving, the roster via free agency, trades, or, through the draft. And I've got a lot of confidence in, the people in the building, the process, and, I've got a lot of faith in the plan that we have in place moving forward.
Joe, are you under the belief that you need to make the playoffs next year?
No. Again, we got to continue to build it the right way, and if we have a really good roster and, you get close, and again, I think John said it to you guys earlier, progress. And we're at 3 wins. We didn't make progress in the direction we wanted to this year, and it's not good enough, and it starts with me, and I understand that. But, to have an ultimatum, you make the playoffs or you don't, that gets in a little bit of the question earlier, like if, that changes things, but that's not it. Like John believes in the people in the building, and Steve, and, they're giving us the ability to, to build it the right way.
What were your conversations like with John on Friday? You said you spoke.
Yeah, I mean, it was with Dave's was in there too. We're going to keep those conversations private, but, they were productive. Good communication like what we always have. We, talk to John on a daily basis. So Friday wasn't like some out of the ordinary, situation. We have good conversation all the time, whether, it's at practice, in the building, on the phone, whatever it is. So we have constant communication. No, you're good.
You've referenced having faith in your plan, and obviously on the outside it looks like it's going backwards. 9-6-3 wins. What is that plan? What can you articulate that is going to give faith to the fans who are obviously paying money to come to these games that it is going to be different?
Yeah, I understand your question. Again, it goes back to a little bit what I said. We're not digging ourselves out of a financial hole or a lack of draft capital. Again, we made a decision with Daniel after that the playoff run, and the way we structured the contract was we're going to do the best we can to try to surround him with weapons, upgrade the offensive line, which we did this year, and see how far we could go with Daniel. And unfortunately, it didn't work out, but at the same time, we're not, our hands aren't tied behind our back financially. We're in good shape, over the next, we're in good, salary cap situation, and, we have, draft capital to make changes. And again, I've got a lot of confidence in the plan, the people in this building, and our process that will do that.
Joe, I know it's early. How would you evaluate the quarterback class this current?
Yeah, I don't want to get into the specifics on that. We've done a lot of work, and again, until we get to February or early March in the combine and can get around these guys, that's when the opinions really start to take shape. Once you get into March and early April, and you can get around the kids.
Does it concern you at all that there are 2 teams ahead of you that potentially could need a quarterback as well?
We got control. We can control. Nothing we can do about that.
So what did you think when you saw Shedeur throwing the ball with Malik in the streets?
Yeah, that one caught me off guard. Obviously, I knew the Heisman Trophy ceremony was in town. I didn't even realize that Shedeur would be in that. I guess he was supporting Travis, but yeah, that was cool. I mean, unexpected, but the fact that those 2 have a relationship, that was. I have not seen that before. An NFL receiver and a quarterback prospect playing catch down, in New York City. So that was interesting.
Joe, then Shedeur then said something like, "You can't go." When the week you guys had the number 1 pick, he said something like, "Can't go higher than number 1. I already know where I'm going." That kind of thing. It makes people wonder if you've given Shedeur's camp any indication that he's your guy.
No, we haven't had any conversations with his camp on any of that stuff, and we don't really control any of that stuff. So, again, we got to control what we can control.
Joe, both John and the players spoke about the positives of continuity, but when the results aren't there record-wise in the direction you want, what benefits do you get from a continuity in GM and head coach?
Yeah, again, we're trying to build this still. Again, I know I spoke at the bye week. I believe it was 18 to 22 starters coming back. Where when you first get here, and where we were from a salary cap standpoint, and trying to prioritize, how you were going to build it, where you were going to address certain things. It takes time to get to this point. And then, again, we were talking to some of the defensive guys today in our exit interviews, and Bobby O, for example, like 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, he's on 4 different defenses in 4 years. So it's, as you're talking to these guys and you realize how hard it is to learn some of these new systems. You got young guys that are getting their feet wet, that are just finally starting to feel comfortable in the systems now. So, I do think it's important, and, and this is hard, and it takes time. And, I think the continuity factor is important, and, hopefully we see that come to fruition, in 2025.
Joe, why are you and Brian doing separate pressers today? It seems like in the past at this juncture you guys typically meet us together. I've been in 6 hours of meetings today. You can talk to Deion about that afterwards. So I've been pretty busy. Just came up for air. So.
Joe, you had 10 different offensive line combinations this year, which was tied for the most in the league. Last year you had the same thing. I know one of the things you talked about when you first came here was solidifying the offensive line. Where do you think you are in that respect, and how important is it to galvanize that group?
Yeah, that's a good question. I felt pretty good about it through the first 6 weeks. And then when AT went down, there's certain players on your roster that are difficult to replace, and I would put him in that category. So again, when we were rolling with those 6 guys, I felt good about it. We made significant gains in terms of the amount of sacks. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think we cut it in half, or close to cut in half compared to a year ago. So I did feel good about the offensive line, up until that point. And then I would even say after the bye week, once we had some more injuries, I think we've given up 14 sacks, and 6 of those came against Dallas. Last 2 weeks we didn't give up any sacks. So not as bad as the year before, so I do think there's some improvements. Again, for the last 2 weeks to not give up any sacks, with the different amounts of, guys that were in there. So I do think it's better. So, all the guys are coming back except for GVR and Stinney are the 2 UFAs amongst that group, Hubbard as well. So, there'll be good competition there. Obviously, the right guard spot's open, and, that's something that we can look to address. But, I thought Jermaine played well when he was at right tackle. He really helped us out by moving to left tackle, and showing his versatility was good. John Runyon, again, you try to sign these guys, you look at the durability, and, you try to sign guys that are going to be healthy. He hasn't missed a game in 4 years, and you sign him, and he comes from a winning organization and provided really good leadership for us, and, was injured. And then, John Michael had the injury as well. So, you'd hope one of these years the injury gods would take care of us, and, we could be healthy the entire season, up front. Because you watch these games on Sundays as you get late into December, and you're looking at these offensive lines, you're like, gosh dang, that's their starting 5. It'd be nice to have in December. So, again, that'll always be a priority for us moving forward. It was tough last year in 2023, the way we played, and, it's part of the offseason priority this year. And I feel good about the 4 that we have coming back, and the depth and the competition we'll have.
Joe, when you look at your draft class this year, we know how productive they've been. You obviously talked about it, and John mentioned it. The process you used this year with this draft, is it the same process, or how has that changed from year 1 to year 2, and then year 2 to year 3 for you, your department, for scouting and everything else?
Yeah, year 1 you come in and Brandon Brown was the only addition, for that first draft. So you're working with a room full of people that, you're still trying to figure out. Some guys are really good at background, some are really good at scouting and evaluation and the round value. So you're trying to figure that out year 1. Year 2, we made some changes. We brought in, Chris Rossetti and Dennis Hickey, and, Cowden was on, came on board, this past year. So, the process isn't much different. I'm still learning, always learning. I think that's important. And, I reflect on some of the decisions we made, and maybe where, there was a blind spot, or I turned a blind eye to some things, that I learned from. And I think that's important, year 3, good process in place, the right people in place. I got a great scouting staff. It's unique that we took a player from each scout's area, so each scout of our road scouts who do a phenomenal job are represented in that draft class. So, our scouting staff is where we want it, pro and college staff. And, again, I got a lot of faith in the people in there. And, again, I think you saw the results from the draft class this past year.
Do you let yourself go back and think, if you had your process before this class, if you were able to somehow go, I know you can't go backwards,
Yeah.
but are there things that you looked at that maybe would have been different in those first 2 draft classes if you had this team together the way you have it set up right now?
Yeah, and that's what keeps you up at night. You're always evaluating everything, and you want to be perfect, and you're dealing with the ultimate equalizer and human beings and people, and how they're going to react in different situations, and the big city and the lights, and the media and the pressure of playing in the city. So as we continue to do it, we're going to continue to sharpen our process. And again, I believe in the process and the people in the building. And yeah, you just got to learn. If you do make mistakes, I think it's you reflect on it, you own it, and you learn from it. And those experiences will only help you, as you move forward in those draft meetings. And that's an important part of, some of the experience that I have on my staff. Well, Brandon Brown could say, well, when I was in Philly, we did this, or Ryan Cowden could say, when I was in Tennessee, we did this, or Dennis Hickey, when I was a GM. Some of that, experience comes in, mixed in with some of our youth, is really helpful, as you're going through these decisions and trying to make the right decisions.
Joe, couple more. John talked to us about how the defense was something that he was really concerned with. So for you, how will you go about, or what are maybe some of the biggest priorities for you fixing this defense?
Yeah, Dave's and I, we'll go through those conversations here over the next couple of weeks. We're going to take a step back and look at it. And, is it scheme? Is it personnel? Is it, just run fits, or, some of it's, players too. So, we're going to look at all 3 phases and, where we need to upgrade and how we can get better.
Joe, it's no secret you guys made a pretty significant draft resource investment in Jalen Hyatt, trading up to get him.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't worked out. Playing time, he's not happy. He said we'll see when we asked him about his future. How do you see Jalen Hyatt's future here, and how can he become more involved? Yeah,
I'd heard that, so I called him and just because he had to get something done, so we weren't able to talk to him yet. So I asked him about that, and he was, his take on it was there was a question about Darius if Darius wasn't here. I think that was the we'll see comment if Darius Slayton wasn't here. But yeah, still got a lot of confidence in Jalen, and some of it comes down to his skill set, utilizing his skill set. He's a vertical guy that can take the top off and can run, and he's an explosive playmaker. So part of it starts with getting somebody in here that can hopefully utilize his skill set. And again, with Wandell in the slot, I think he had 93 catches. Obviously, you guys saw Neighbors this year, and then also having a vertical guy that can take the top off. And Theo thought had a really good rookie season, really came on, really improved. Really excited about him. And then you saw what Tracy did. So there's some young core pieces on offense that have different skill sets that can provide some explosive plays. Get the right quarterback in here. Hopefully we can utilize him.
When you look at the
last one.
When you look at the play you got from the quarterback position this season with all you invested in it, what gives you confidence that you can fix it? It seems like obviously it was a pretty big miss, most important position.
Start at the beginning again. What was the first part?
So you invested a lot in the quarterback position,
Yep.
obviously, and the results were what they were this year. So what gives you the confidence that you have what it takes to evaluate the position and get it right this time?
I wouldn't change what we did. When I reflect on how that went down with Daniel, again, it's the information you have. Again, we had just won 10 games. You won a road playoff game. I just watched Dave's for 4 years at Buffalo with Josh Allen. The year before that with Jalen and Tua at Alabama. So I've got a lot of confidence in the coaching staff. Again, I've got a lot of confidence in our process. We've done these quarterback deep dives the last 2 or 3 years, and I would say, the players that we were high on have went on to have solid rookie years or second years, whatever it may be. So, again, a lot of faith in my staff, a lot of faith in the coaching staff with if it's draft or free agency or who we sign that they would be able to develop them. I wish it would have worked out with Daniel, but it didn't. But it doesn't. That doesn't deter me from taking one and having a lot of faith in the people that are in place to develop whoever it is.
Can I just ask one more? Evan Neal, you guys have been reluctant to move him to guard in the past. Is that something that's going to be on the table, you think?
We didn't speak with him about that today. Again, those will be off-season conversations if that's something that we decide. But that didn't come up in our conversations with Evan today.